Hi guys, welcome to my vlog. So for today's video, I'm gonna share to you the story of The Open Boat by Stephen Cranes. The story of The Open Boat is all about surviving in the middle of the sea and facing a big wave that will cause a big problem for their boat. The captain is giving the right instruction about how they will survive in the middle of the sea. The four men in the story have a strong bond and trust each other. Why is the story called realistic fiction? What real event provided Crane with the idea or basis for his short story? The Open Boat is called realistic because it is based on a true story. Who are the men on the boat? How does the narrator describe the crew? What adjective does the narrator use? What are their jobs? We have four men in the open boat: a cook, a correspondent, an oiler, and the captain. The captain is calm and quiet, talking for the most part only to give direction and lead the crew to shore. A cook who maintains a positive and even outlook on the men's rescue. The oiler is staunch, obedient to the captain, and generous and polite to the correspondent whenever he asks to row. The correspondent is presumably young and able-bodied, given that he shares rowing duties with the oiler. Why are the characters traveling in a small boat? Crane was stranded at sea for 30 hours when his ship, the SS Commodore, sank after hitting a sandbar. He and three other men were forced to navigate their way to shore in a small boat. What does it mean that none of them knew the color of the sky? What kind of mood does this set for the story? None of the men know the color of the sky because they are so determined to survive. Crane automatically set the scene for this story by telling us there's nothing appealing about one fighting for their life. What point of view the narrator is adopting in this story? First or third person? Why emphasize the correspondent over any of the other characters? What is the significance in this choice? A third-person story, he chooses to let a narrator reveal the emotions of the characters and inner thoughts. Matter of fact, lyrical. How does the narrator describe the character thoughts and emotions? Discussed by citing passage in the story. The relationship between the four men is difficult to describe because they all understand each other so well. How do the men in the open boat really relate to each other? What do the men do to prepare in case some of them do not survive? The relationship between the four men in the paragraph is a more profound bond than regular friendship because of the fact that they all understand and others so well. The crew members have a better chance of surviving and making it to shore, which is kinda the plot of the excerpt. They will send a letter in case they can't survive in the middle of the sea. What are some of the dangers the men face? Explain how the author creates an increasing sense of hopelessness in the men. The author creates a sense of hopelessness in the men by making nature like a character, by having all the men feeling the same fear and dread, and by showing that against nature they are helpless. How do the men get to shore? Which of the men survive? The captain decides that they must try to swim to take the lifeboat as close to shore, and the says that be ready to swim. Three of the men reach the shore, while the oiler drones and dies, even though he tries to swim to reach ashore. What are the conflict in the story? What is the major conflict of the story? The type of conflict that they are facing is self versus nature. They are on a little boat in the sea and trying to get to shore. Motive. What patterns or repetitions do you find in the story? How are these important to understand in the story? In the open boat, Crane conveys as existential view of humanity. That is, he depicts a human situation in which the individual is insignificant in the universe, and yet, through free will and consciousness, must interpret a reality that is essentially unknowable. Symbols. What do the wave, boat, sea, and shark symbolize in the open boat? The sea symbolizes ruthless nature indifferent towards human life. The four men in the boat struggle for their lives on the rough sea. A shark that continued to circle their small boat. The crashing waves capsize their dinghy and the men tumble out in the sea. Theme. What message is the author sending? What is the relationship of man and nature in Stephen Crane's The Open Book? Does Crane see nature as malicious or something else? Explain. The open boat demonstrates repeatedly that humans have no control over nature, despite their best effort to overcome it. Throughout the story, the four men must fight against nature for their survival by navigating their tiny lifeboat through rough waters, a fight they are clearly not winning. Crane strengthens the idea that nature is indifferent to man by showing that it is as randomly helpful as it is hurtful.